Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Fast Leadership Podcast with Arnaud and Gordon, where we look to take the rocket science out of leadership and make it accessible to everybody. So, Arnaud, what's the topic for today's talk?
Hey Gordon, today I was making myself a nice cup of coffee, right? And I got this mug that I really love. And I thought about this guy as a leader. I'm sure you know him, is maybe not the best leader in the world, but it could be the best leader of another galaxy, right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking of one of the challenges he has to deal with. It's that he's leading all kind of people in all kind of different planets, right?
Yeah.
So basically, he invented remote leadership.
Yeah, and not all of us have the force available that we can use over distance. So we need to be able to do that. So I
Yeah.
think one of the things that it's probably worth pointing out, and this is from my personal experience. I think one of the hardest things to do is to keep people engaged,
Mhm.
and engagement for me, it's the responsibility, the accountability even of the leader. And I'm somebody who spends a lot of time engaging with teams. So when I first managed my 100% remote project with people in Serbia, India, US, and Europe and UK, um, before the pandemic, I thought I'm going to be fine here because I make an effort to
Okay.
engage people.
Yeah.
And
Right.
what I found was it wasn't enough. So all
Okay.
of the things that I was doing that created great engaged teams locally when we were all in the same environment, I had to actually do around 3 to 4 times as much in order to get that same level of engagement from the teams. And that's because there's what I would call direct engagement, where we're engaging with people in a kind of a formal setting. And then there's the indirect engagement where you meet somebody at a coffee machine, or that you see them at lunch, or you pass them in the hallway, all of
Yeah.
which are opportunities to engage. But in a remote setting, you don't have those. You have that
Yeah.
limited amount of time when you're on the screens, and we want them to feel engaged 100%, not just when they're on screen with us.
Right. Because that's this cliche of people shutting on the meeting and getting to do their laundry and
Yeah.
disengaged,
Well,
and it's been interesting since the pandemic that some companies they just stopped remote working, which to
yeah.
me maybe it's my generation, but it's not a good idea. It's not the way to get me more engaged to force me to come to work. There's a word in French, I don't know the word in English actually. It's called presentism. It's the fact that you're there at work
Oh,
physically.
presentism.
Yeah, yeah, right. So it's the same word, right? It's the fact to be there physically at work, but not being there
Yeah.
mentally, not working.
Physically present, mentally absent. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one of the things that, people used to tell me was, I need my team to be there in order to make sure they're doing their work. I was like, well,
Oh,
that's a sign that you're a bad leader if you need them to be physically there. Because I mean, I do like the concept of managing by walking around. So,
yeah.
and that's a little bit of informal leadership where you're not in a meeting and you just step out and just casually, see people and see how things are going. And it's some of those interactions where you can learn the most, when people and not talking to you in front of others, where they feel a little bit
Right.
less threatened, or um, on the witness stand, as it
Right.
were.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more relaxed, and these are the kind of things that we need to create. And I think there are a lot of companies who are revisiting that policy, but for me, that's more of a leadership problem than a management than an employee problem. Now, that's not to say that as employees, because I when I work remotely, I'm an employee as well, and it
Sure.
is easily to get distracted by the smell of cooking, the
The
Cats
kids,
quite,
the dog
yeah,
barking, and
yeah. And
yeah, of course.
we live a mile from the beach, and the sun's shining. Maybe I could just go for a walk. You know what I'll do?
But you know,
I'll
I
go
live in
for a
Belgium, so
walk.
yeah, I live in Belgium, so I don't have that kind of problem. Or it's raining here,
Uh,
but I get your point. Yeah, you get
yeah,
distracted. That's part of being at home.
yeah. So, for the employees, some of the things that we need to do as employees to make sure we can be engaged. I think what we need to do is we need to make sure we've got a dedicated environment. And one of the things I always tell people is know when you are your most productive, and then
Hmm.
block that time for things to do. And for me, I'm most productive early morning between 6:30 and 8:30 is when I do my best work. So actually
Yeah.
remote working is great for me because normally that's the time I will be getting showered and driving, commuting to the office. So for me, that's the most productive. But I've got to make sure I reserve that as productive time. But as leaders, what we need to do is we need to make sure we double, if not triple, our efforts to engage people. And that doesn't mean go from managing to micromanaging. We don't want to go that far, but we want to just be checking up on people. We've got to make so that I'll talk about some of the social things. So it's like if you've got a meeting, start the meeting with a little bit more time than you need, and then have that social chit chat. Try and
Right.
create those, coffee machine, water cooler moments to give people an opportunity to be relaxed, and make sure that you're making the effort to get everybody to participating in the meetings. And one of the
Mhm.
things that I think is really good is to insist in camera on, because if
Right.
people have camera off, they can become disengaged and you don't notice. Also, I can't remember what the statistic is, but I think it's something like 87% of all communication is non-verbal. So
Yeah.
if you're having an audio conference, now you're down to a little bit. And I was doing a piece of work with somebody, and there's a few of us on the call, and I said, I'm gonna give you a call, Andy, in 10 minutes. And what I want to do is I want to work with you to see whether we can cut the project delivery time in half. And he was on the camera and he just went, oh. And I thought, okay, I'm glad that I'm. You're probably not glad the camera was on because people saw
Right.
that, but actually, it's good for me to know
It's
how.
brutally honest, non-verbal
Yeah,
communication.
yeah, that's right. And if it was just audio, I would have missed that, and I would have gone in. So when I went into that meeting, it was like, okay, I appreciate you don't think this. It feels like I'm here to um, tell you how to do your job better. That's not it. What I
Hmm.
want to do is I want to understand what the process is, and let's between us have a look at it and see where we could trim a little bit of time off if it's possible.
Yeah.
But I think,
So we've all been in that situation during the pandemic, right?
yeah,
And some people will say, okay, I understand it can work to be remote, but I don't want that kind of communication. I don't want to put on my camera. I don't want to stay at home. I want to be in the office and feel the social interactions that I
yeah,
did miss during the pandemic. And what you're saying seems to me like this these kind of interactions are so important
yeah,
that as a leader you have to put up the extra effort to not reproduce them, but try,
simulate them.
yeah, assimilate. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, simulate them. We are social beings. Obviously, there are
Correct.
some people who are a little bit more introvert, shy, and don't want as much. But in general, we're social beings. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We all want to have that feeling of connection. And if we're working remotely, we're automatically disconnected through distance. So we've got to recreate that connection. So one of the things that I do, and we're just talking about the social aspect of it. So a lot
Yeah.
of what I do is I try to find out, what are the things that interest my team, and use tools like Slack or the chat tools. I'll even, if we don't have a tool, I'll either do it over Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and just
Mhm.
have that chat. And this morning, one of the people I need him to come and do a meeting this afternoon to explain something to that we have a go live in 3 weeks, and I need him to explain the way a piece of functionality works. He's based in North America. Project is going live in Ireland. So this morning, when I just started the chat with him, even though I know he's asleep, I just wrote, "Hey, that was a great win for the Detroit Lions. You must be happy about that." So
Right.
I include a lot more social within the chat now, just to be able to have that, that bit of chit chat. Because if it's all business, what do they say? All work and no play makes Jack a
Jack it
dull.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, so we
And
or
we don't
Jane.
know the shining over there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we need to make sure we create that interaction and also encourage it within our teams as well.
I'll
And
say something about it.
yeah,
Uh, I agree 100% with what you're saying that we need to interact socially and sometimes leave the work and just talk as human beings, right?
yeah.
And to me, a caveat of that is that you must also respect the offline timing of your collaborators.
Oh God, yeah, yeah,
Because I've been in, let's call it toxic environments where Saturday night, 11 p.m., I got a message from the boss. It could be not about the work,
yeah.
but I don't want to have that kind of message at that time, at that kind of moment, right?
Yeah. Well, and again, employees and bosses need to be mindful
Right,
that we're not burning people out. And I'll tell you a quick story. When I worked with one company, my boss used to like to have meetings at the end of the day. That was when he was most productive. So we'd organize meetings at 5 o'clock. And then he would insist everybody was on camera. And one of the people didn't want to be on camera. It was like, come on, be on camera. You can do it. Da, 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 da. Now, and I agree with that. And when she put the camera on, she was sat in bed in her pajamas. And it's like, what's going on? She said, it's midnight in Shanghai.
oh goodness.
And it was like, oh, wow. And we've been holding these meetings every week at 5 o'clock. Okay, we'll move it to two. I appreciate that's still going to be in your evening at 9 p.m., but at least it's not midnight and you're not sat
Right.
in bed in your pajamas. So as leaders, we need to be conscious of other time zones. And I did a project where we had a team in India that were doing a lot of technical work, and we would be on the call and it'd be going badly, and then it's 7 o'clock here, and it's like, oh, that's 11 o'clock in India. Okay, guys, please keep reminding me
Yeah.
of your time zone because it's easy for me to forget. So we need to give our teams permission to say, excuse me, it's midnight. I have to sleep.
That's very natural. Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to be mindful of it. And also, so I think when you're working flexible for the employers and the employee of bosses and team members, if you're in a different time zone, if you need to take your kids to school, block it in your calendar every day and just say,
Right.
sorry, this is personal time. This is, I take my kids to school. If I was working physically, I would do that, then come to work. So you're extending the work day, which is a benefit for the company, and I'm happy to work later or earlier, but there are certain times that are blacked out, and we've got to let our teams have that. Otherwise, we're just working people from 7 to 9, and you know that that's not good for their
Yeah.
mental well-being and productivity. And there's studies that have been done which after 6 hours and we work 8-hour days. I think it's after 6 hours for every hour our productivity, it drops by 25%.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if you work longer, you're not getting a benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So what are the things that would engage you working remotely? Would those work for you?
I love and hate it at the same time, to be honest. I love the flexibility because I know where I'm very efficient and
Yeah,
I know when I just can't work
yeah,
during the day. You know, I got my moments. And when I'm 100% remote, I do miss the social interactions a lot.
yeah. Me too.
I do miss seeing people and getting, you know, to get a coffee together, to just shake hands and talk about
Yeah.
how's your day or whatever. Yeah.
Zoom's a good tool, and Teams is a good tool. You
It
can have that. Yeah, you're not going to get a hug, but we can have the same conversations at least.
true, true.
And that's what
Yeah.
I think we need to do. We need to make sure we have that. And then when we're talking about engagement to do the work, we need to there's three things I think we need to do as leaders. One, we need to make sure that everybody's crystal clear on the goal and the objective, because
Right.
if we're not, and you've got people that are working in remotely, there isn't anybody that's walking past who's going to see that and say, "Oh, you're focused on the wrong thing." So we need to be absolutely 100% crystal clear on the goals, the objectives, and priorities,
Mm-hmm.
because if we work with teams in America, so at 5 o'clock, the teams on the West Coast, they're really just starting their day, and if I give them the wrong priority, it's not until one day later that we're
Yeah.
able to correct that, and then that can lead them to working on the wrong thing, and they become frustrated. Second thing we need to do is we need to keep um, reinforcing the and checking that they have everything they need to do the job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because when we're
Yeah.
remotely, if we come off camera and they go, I don't know what to do now, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, then people are going to get frustrated and they'll disengage. So we need to make sure everybody has the tools they need for the job. And then thirdly, I think what we need to do, and there's been a big push over the last few years to reduce the number of people copied on emails. Don't have everybody's email box full of emails, but we need to make sure we keep everybody in the
In the
loop.
loop. Yeah, of course. But please, people don't always reply to all.
Yeah, yeah.
Not always necessary.
It's not always necessary, but if a decision or something important is being said, then we need to make sure that everybody that needs to
Yeah.
know. Because if we decide, what, we're we'll move that meeting with the business. We won't do it today. We'll do it tomorrow. And we haven't told the person who's working on the PowerPoint. They now might be working till midnight
Yeah.
to create a report for something that's not needed for another 24 hours. So we need to, and we just need to make sure we're keeping these frustrations from disengagement. And another tip is that there's, especially if you're using tools like Teams, great opportunity to record meetings. So if somebody can't attend a meeting, record it, create the transcript, summary notes so that people can be
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
And we also need to, when I talk about 4 times the engagement is what I needed to do to keep that same level, that also means uh, recognition.
Uh-huh.
Recognition, and we can do that via chat. Good job, well done, thanks. We tend to be a little bit more formal in emails, where we might say thanks if it's face to face, but not say as much in person, in a chat, but just reach out and chat. Thanks, how are you doing, how's it going? And
Yeah.
check in on people. I think if you do that,
Checking on people.
you get the social right, and then the setup right, which is where fast comes back in. Make sure people have got clarity of goal, they've got the tools, and they understand what we're doing and how we're going to do it. And when we've
Hmm.
got that alignment, it's very easy to remain engaged.
And it's better for the company, it's better for the people who are engaged. I was talking about it a few weeks ago with a researcher who investigated the impact um of remote meetings on being promoted. And the results are that the more you talk during a remote meeting, the higher your chances to be promoted in your company. So if you engage, actually, you enhance your own chances to get promoted. And
Yeah,
it was very peculiar because that was the number one way to get promoted during the COVID period. It
yeah.
was to be active during remote meetings.
That is a great thing, and one of my favourite sayings is it's a little bit different, but I think it applies, and that is if you want to be emperor, you've got to be in Rome, and that means people need to see. They need to see you and see all of the things that you've done, and to give you that recognition and reward. So, as leaders, we need to make sure that we are aware of this and
Mhm.
we're not overlooking people who are doing great work
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
but are not blowing their own trumpet. So
Yeah.
you need to be making sure you talk about the things that you've done, and leaders, we need to be making sure that we're picking up who's doing a good job, um, and and include people every meeting. Get feedback from everybody. One of the
Yeah.
things that I really like as well, which I didn't mention earlier, and that is that, as somebody who's worked a lot in agile projects, one of the things with agile projects is that you have a daily stand up meeting, 15, 20 minutes, where people tell you what they did, what are the challenges, what they're going to do today.
Mhm.
And I think that for remote meetings is good as well. Having that daily connection where you can just get, and it doesn't have to be an agile project. You can do that with anything. Just, okay, what are we looking at today? And as a leader, it gives you an opportunity to say priorities haven't changed. We're still focused on this. Bob, what are you doing? Sue, Mandy, AJ, and just go around and give everybody an opportunity to talk about any challenge that they've got.
And it's kind of reproducing the I see you across the hall and checking on you.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It's just the same, except it's on camera.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think create the social environment, create that interaction, give that people that feeling of connection, one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Make sure that you're including people in the have daily stand-ups and make sure you get everybody to speak. And then it's just
Yeah.
about clarity of goals, giving people the tools, making sure they're clear on the approach, and again having feedback mechanisms which show the progress, because then people, when the it's hard to, when you're remote, it's like playing football, with a blindfold on. You're involved, but you don't know what's going on elsewhere. So it's good to let people know, this is the score, this is where we are, this is the progress that's being made, because progress is one of the greatest motivators. And we
Uh-huh.
need to make sure we can show people that they're making progress. And as I say,
Definitely.
you know, I I don't want to be understating this, but I did all of this and I had a great reputation as a leader, and yet I had to do 4 times as much in a remote environment. What I did that worked didn't work remote. I had to increase it by a factor of 4. And I was doing significantly more than the other leaders. So they
You
need
know,
to do that same volume of the work.
we I think we can agree we'll never say that being a great leader is easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot
Yeah.
of getting to getting the right mentality and getting to support your team and getting to do everything you can to help them and keep the balance within yourself as well.
So
It's a tough position,
yeah,
but it's still great. It's still
it,
great.
it, it is, but just being social with people's not hard.
Right.
It's not brain surgery. It's not rocket science.
Sure.
Just asking people, hey, how are you doing? Um, but I think when we do that, we can really benefit and create. create good teams, and the teams involved will appreciate it because it is win-win. People can be more productive in a remote environment, and that's partly because if we're fully engaged, and I know I do this myself, the 1 hour I spend driving to work and driving home from work, I actually now spend working.
Working.
So you already
Sure,
got 2 hours more time from me
sure, sure.
just just because of that, and we don't want to go back to working locally. And the reason I say that is because those leaders that can't lead remotely can't lead locally either, so it ain't gonna fix your problem.
We'll talk about it in another episode. What are the qualities of a leader? Even remotely or locally, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But what are the great qualities? I'd like to thank you, Gordon. It was great insights to how to manage a team remotely and how to be a great leader uh, on camera.
Yeah. And don't forget, if you like the podcast, please share it, like it, leave a 5-star review. And we're going to be posting these every Tuesday. So watch out on all the major platforms. And, with that, that's goodbye from me. And I'm doing quite well, feeling good today. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye.